Alrighty, today we're going to look at problem 6-101B, where we're going to do some factoring. Yeah, these are really cool. Remember, the factoring and distributive property are kind of back and forth the same. They're basically the same thing. All right, so here's the problem. It says 30d to the second power minus 18d, and we want to factor it. So what that means is we want the form where we have terms inside the parentheses. So we have a minus, so we're going to put a minus in here. And we're going to have the greatest common factor on the outside and the terms inside the parentheses. Okay, so the way I'm going to start, I am going to look at 30 and 18. So 30 and 18, I'm looking for the greatest common factor. So 5 times 6 is 30, and 2 times 2. All right, let's try that again. How about 3 times 6? Here we go. 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, so here's our greatest common factor. We could do this by making a prime number tree and all that, but most of you already know your times tables well enough to be able to look at this. Okay, so our greatest common factor is 6. So that's going to be one of our numbers on the outside of the parentheses, so 6. And then we're going to look at the variables. So d to the second is the same thing as the factors, or d times d. And then the other factor with the 18 is just a plain old d, so that would be 1 times d. Okay, so here's going to be our greatest common factor is the d. So 6d, we got the number and the variable. That's our greatest common factor. We know we're going to have a minus sign inside here. And so now the trick is to figure out 6d, remember distributive property, we're going to multiply 6d times something, and we want to get 30d to the second power. Okay, so 6 times 5 is going to make 30, so I know I'm going to have a 5 here. And d times d is d to the second, so I'm guessing this term is going to be 5d. Because when I go to do the distributive property, I have 5d times, 6d times 5d. Okay, so there's our distributive. Now I'm going to think, okay, 6d times something, and the answer is going to be 18d. So 6 times 3 is 18. There's already a d here, so I don't need anything else. Okay. And so here's my subtract, so that would be 6d times 3. Okay. And now if I multiply, this is going to be 30d to the second. And this is 6 times 3 is 18, so that's going to be 18d. So you see where we ended up, right where we started. Okay. So we factored. So our solution, our factored answer was 6d times 5d minus 3. Okay, so this is our solution factored. And we can check it by using the distributive property, which should come back to where we started. Another thing to notice about this is, remember, factors are separated by a times sign. Like 5 and 6 are factors of 30, some of the factors, not all of them. Okay, so here, what would the factors be? Okay, so 6d, we have that invisible times sign here, and then we have 5d minus 3. Okay, so the factors are separated by the times sign, so one factor is 6d, and the other factor is this whole thing here. So that's why they call this factored form. It's in factors. Okay, we're multiplying. Remember, terms, add and subtract, factors, multiply. All righty. Thank you.